me llamo è un DJ para tu box della Hard Rock Lunch.
Hard Rock Lunch Box.
Oh man, what is up, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to start off complaining, but it's what I'm going to do, so might as well just strap on in. Like, I almost totally forgot to start the recording for the top 20. I barely remembered to start the recording or the broadcast of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. Recording the top 20 would have been ridiculous without that, but I almost forgot to do that. Like, I'm really at a place in my personal existence where I am just screwing up such simple, basic stuff that I'm actually becoming a little worried about when something I do is important and I screw that up or forget to do something. I feel like that's knee-deep on the horizon, folks. But anyway, it's great to be here again. Typical Thursday just at noon. It's what we do here. It's a little something we call the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And, of course, the first 20 minutes of the Hard Rock Lunchbox is the top 20. We are, it's not exactly doing something new today, but we're going to be restarting something in a new way later today on the box. I am starting back up live interviews. And if that sounds new, well, if it doesn't sound new, it's because typically, like, I'll have Jimmy or Annie or Mikey in studio, and I'll do a live interview with them. And that's usually a good part of the show, and then everyone gets mad at me because I ignore everybody except the guest because I'm a good host, and that's just the way I was raised. And it's better to ask for forgiveness from the chat than permission, I have found. Actually, it's not good to ask them for either, but so on and so forth. So I, over the years, I have done some phone interviews because I could, and I thought it was prudent, or friends of mine couldn't make it in, but they were promoting stuff, so I always thought that those were kind of fun. And then over the years, I've kind of rounded out this concept of what I wanted to do with live interviews in the show, and once I kind of created the top 20, I wanted to do something that was called the Talk 20, which is a 20-minute quick interview with bands or, you know, people in the field or whatever. And it's just simple and short, but it's also live, so I get to engage whoever's listening to the show. They can ask me questions. They can text me or message me questions or put it, like, right in the chat. And then, you know, they can engage, too. Most of the interviews that I've ever done are pre-recorded, with the exception of something like the After Hours review. Like, that was live, I think. I'm pretty sure that was live. And it's always good to, like, deal with, like, actual questions, because people have honest-to-God questions. I mean, yeah, some of them are stupid and meaningless, but, like, that's okay. Like, I ask stupid and meaningless questions all the time. It's what makes this show great. Or not. But I always thought that was important. So I wanted to do something like that, just real kind of short interviews, just a couple questions, just meet the bands or meet the people and see what they have to do. So my point of that whole long, rambling intro is that starts today. And in typical fashion, the way I've been doing things lately, it actually is no real... It's nothing that I went out and did. Like, it just seems like for me to get stuff done lately, things need to go in motion in order for them to actually happen and stuff like that. And there's, like, a whole series of events that led to this, but because it was right there in front of me, I figured, like, cool, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for, so I'm going to do it. And today, about 1 o'clock, we're going to do the first Talk 20, and or the first official Talk 20, and we're going to see how that goes. Now, I have a bunch of extra gear up here because I can no longer, well, I can, but I'm not going to, I'm going to do the interview on Zoom, because maybe I'll even post that up on Strangerhood TV when we're done, and we can check that out. I just want to have the options, and we'll just see what we do with them. But I have extra gear here now because in order to do a proper Zoom meeting, I need my laptop. It has to be routed into the board. It's a whole big mess. And to be perfectly honest, I tried it out on Sunday. My daughter Charlotte helped me out, and we did a quick Zoom meeting, and I think everything is set up correctly, but I don't know for sure. So I really don't know until I do this interview. So I feel bad for the guys, and for lack of a term, because they don't know any of this. They don't know. It's my first time doing it with this particular Zoom setup. But I thought it would be good to try, and everyone's doing Zoom meetings and stuff now, and I haven't done one of these in, probably a year or so. So we're going to do it through Zoom. We're going to do it this way. We're going to see what happens, and we're going to have the chat. In the chat, if you guys have any questions, I definitely want you to ask them. I have a list of stuff that I'm going to talk to them about. See, there's all the questions right there. You can see that next week in the top 20, but by then you will have heard the talk 20 and probably don't need to see the top 20 to see what the questions are. Get it? So as not to ignore the chat, and yet we don't get to participate. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm setting this up so you can participate. It's much more difficult for me to have somebody live in studio and not give them the attention I think a live person deserves. I don't honestly know if that's going to happen on Zoom. We're going to find out. And you'll be ignored or not, but it's not going to be a worse ignore, that's for sure. That's something to look forward to, right? Everybody? Anybody? So we're the homeless looking at the... Yeah, pretty much. An object in motion. Correct. It's nice to see the chat is wide awake. Thank you for being here, chat. We got some light housekeeping. The new edition of Top 20 is out. It's not a very good one, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It is the prequel or precursor or intro to the Top 20 Thanksgiving Day Best Bands of the Box Ever, Most Played Bands of the Box Ever countdown. I had a lot of fun doing the countdown. I hope you did too. That podcast is posted, podcast replay. And since most of them were local bands that had actually submitted songs to me and I have expressed permission to play, the actual replay has most of the music, and that's not something that always happens. Unfortunately, it does not have number 2 or number 1, but I guess you can't have everything. Yeah, so feel free to check that out. That's a quick romp through the top 20, and you can go through all that. Of course, in Bacon is my podcast world. Their full interview, Ring of Honor, they're back to wrestling, so I'll be perfectly honest. I did not get a chance to watch it. It doesn't, get my curiosity as much as musicians and stuff, just because I don't know any of the characters. But I do try and listen to them sometimes. But again, this week has just been crazy. The 7 questions that are out is with Steve Mazan. I don't know him either, but it's a comedian, so I'm definitely going to be more inclined to listen to that. But check that out. Check all that out at Strangerhood TV. You can catch the Bacon is My Podcast full interviews. That's every Monday. Bacon is My Podcast 7 questions every Wednesday. And, of course, the top 20 drops every Thursday, so feel free to check that out. And again, a week from now, feel free to check this one out. Happy birthday to Chad White from Aqua Cherry. Yeah, man. Good job. We'll try and get some Aqua Cherry on the box. We'll do a little bleaching, maybe. And speaking of the top 20 and the Hard Rock Lunchbox in general, I did spend a good amount of time last week during the countdown in the intro and the kind of final thing or whatever. Outro, whatever, the goodbye. Expressing my appreciation for all of you for making this, not necessarily possible, but certainly worth doing. There really is no reason to engage the Hard Rock Lunchbox if no one's going to listen to it, right? Like, I don't need to take time out of my day. I certainly don't need to take time out of my weekends to try and post all the replays and stuff. And I meant that. I meant that sincerely. I was actually checking something out that Mikey had sent me, a way to sort of kind of chart. Like, I don't do, as I've said for years, I don't do a lot of promotion on the box, and I don't do a lot of promotion on the top 20 because, first of all, I don't know how to do it more effectively. Like, I've said it for a long time. Like, I don't know I don't know a more efficient way to promote these things, to get them out. I mean, word of mouth seems to be the best way, but that's very slow going. I mean, it's like literally like one person at a time. And it's not that I'm not grateful for those one persons at a time. For whatever reason, checking even just the stats of the box and the replay, we had 300 downloads last week of the replay of this show. And I have no idea how or why that happens. But every now and then it does happen, so that means either one person really liked it 300 times, or 300 people kind of liked it one time. And that's probably a little bit more likely, and I'm fine with that. And that's great, and that's really just the result of just doing something for a long time and trying to do a quality product and creating an atmosphere for people to be a part of something. And then, of course, in the case of like the chat and stuff, like they really just have their own world going on, and that's awesome. And if I have to have a show that's effectively the water cooler for them on Thursdays to just hang out and talk shit, then I'm fine with that. That's an awesome place to be in. The water coolers, I could have worse jobs. I have had worse jobs, so I'm super happy about that. But Mikey pointed me in the direction of a way to actually take a look and sort of see like where the show is charting. Now, apparently, it seems like the big elephant in podcasting and stuff is AppleMusic. But there's hundreds of podcasting hosts. There's Libsyn, there's Podbean, there's hundreds, right? And there's lots of ways to listen to them, like Anchor and Spotify, and of course, Podbean, Podcorn, and all those other things. But it seems like really the big Megillah is Apple Podcasts, Apple Music and Apple Podcasts. So that seems to be something that's carrying a lot of weight. That's something that I didn't know because I didn't even bother to look. But now I know that, so that when I do go around and share the podcast and stuff, I'm probably not going to share the one from Spotify anymore because it doesn't carry as much weight. Although I got my Spotify stats for the box, and I was surprised at how many people do listen to it on Spotify. By the way, if you didn't know that this replay is on Spotify, this replay is on Spotify. So is the top 20. You can hear that there. But it seems like Apple Music is the way to go. So I started checking this out, and I just looked a little bit at some of the analytics, which I have never done before. And it turns out that there is one very, very important statistic that I think everybody needs about. And that statistic is... This show's replay, not even the live show. I can't tell how good the live show does. I know it's anywhere from 1 listener to 200 listeners live. Sometimes it's more than that, but generally speaking, that's usually the range. But the important statistic that I want everybody to know is that the replay of the Hard Rock Lunchbox that appears as a podcast on Spotify and Apple Music and all those places is ranked number 89 for music commentary in Romania. All right, Romania. Yeah, man. Number 89. Beat that. We're also like 94 in Brazil, so yeah. I can't speak Portuguese, but me llamo é DJ para tu box de la Hard Rock Lunch. Hola. It's probably really offensive to speak Spanish to Portuguese-speaking people, but I'm trying, man. I'm really trying my best. I could get Google Translate in on this, but we don't have that kind of money. And I assume in Romania it's just like, hello, is from Romania. I speak like Vlad. But now that sounds Persian. I'm just offending everybody. That I'm going to be in the hundreds by next week. I can feel it. But in the meantime, thank you very much, Romania. I would like to point out that the Replay podcast is not charting at all in America, and I am blaming you, America, and not necessarily me for that failure, but if I could figure out how to promote in America without, I don't know. I don't even know. I honestly don't even know. And that brings me to the point. Like, I had stuff to talk about. I still needed to talk about this thing here, this article I have. Why everyone's moving to Portugal. I thought that was important. Or why everybody should move to Portugal, but I don't think I'm going to get to it. So what I am going to talk about is this ranking system and and all the stuff and what it means. And I have every intention of continuing the Hard Rock Lunchbox, mainly because I enjoy doing it. Like, it's the number one reason. As selfish as that sounds, it's the number one reason I do it. I do the top 20 because it's super easy to do it. It's at the same time as the Hard Rock Lunchbox. The only kind of catch on that is that it does take a fair amount of time for me to post these things after the fact. I have gotten it down to where I can bang it out in about an hour. The Hard Rock Lunchbox, the posting of the podcast, and the video editing and posting of the top 20, I can really bang out in under an hour. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice of my particular time to do that for anybody that wants to watch it. I do want to point out that as far as the top 20 goes, I know there's about 10 to 20 views a week in the week that it comes out, and I think that that's okay. I was hoping that number would start to grow. It just doesn't seem to be growing at all. Where it does kind of grow is later on, and I don't know how that works. Like, I've seen a lot of the top 20s that have doubled that number and tripled that number over time. I don't know how that works, or why that is. I myself don't really listen to podcasts. I watch The Bacon Is My Podcast as often as I can. I will watch or listen to, like, Two Bears, One Cave, Tom Segura's podcast. And I will watch or listen to select podcasts that are sent to me. Like, a lot of times my son will send me, like, something from Joe Rogan's podcast. I'll listen to that. Mikey will send me stuff from Lead Singer Syndrome. I still have on my queue to listen to the Lead Singer Syndrome with I'm drawing a blank, Jeremy from A Day to Remember. And I actively want to listen to that. In fact, I have it slated to listen to on the way home from practice tonight, so maybe I'll give that a listen if I get around to it. A lot of times I walk out of practice and I end up listening to something that we're either working on or some song that we just happen to jam or mention or whatever. It's late when I get out of practice. Anything really could happen. But so I don't, like I say all the time, I don't really understand how these things catch on. But it seems like what's required of me to push these things forward is an investment that I don't have really the ability to make anymore in my life. Now, when I was younger, a million years ago, and I was doing this for the band, like, anybody that remembers me and the way that the end of G Davy was working and the beginning of Verbal 9 was working would know that it was about countless hours of promotion and networking and interaction. And I liked doing it. I enjoyed doing it. I didn't have as much demands on my time then, so it was fairly easy to do it. Social media, as it was way better back then. It was not the cesspool that it is right now. It's not everything's an argument like it is right now. Like, if I go on Facebook once or twice a week, that's a lot. And it's almost always because I need to promote something, which feels shitty on the inside. Like, I don't like doing that. It's like when you're calling a friend just because you need something. It feels exactly like that. And I really don't like doing that, but I recognize that if I don't post that the box is going to be on, a lot of people just don't remember. A lot of people don't even remember it's Thursday, and I can barely fault them for that because I go through that all the goddamn time. So I totally understand why it's important, just as a reminder service, because I'm not about to group text everybody and be like, hey, the show's going on. Like, I've also haven't brought myself to message message people like, hey, the show's coming on. Like, every time something happens, a lot of bands have taken to direct market texting and like Facebook messaging, because email messages they're really no longer viable. Like, we've talked about this sort of stuff for years. In fact, Jimmy from Craving Strange is a huge proponent over the years about owning your own website, owning your own mailing list, and making sure that you have that, because it's always yours, despite what regulations other companies put on their own stuff. Like, this is always yours, and he's 100% right. Problem is, now what's going on is that those emails, like, their average click is about 1%, because people just delete them, or they subscribe to them as junk, or unsubscribe to them when they come in and stuff like that. So you don't even have that access. You can't currently block as much as you want if you direct text people, as everybody that's gotten, that, hey, Charlie, I know we said we wanted to get you that AT&T deal. Like, we've all gotten those messages of some form. And Facebook Messenger is the same way. It works the exact same way. So you can direct messages. Like, I'm not ready to do that. But honestly, even if I was ready to do that, again, we're back to the one-to-one thing. And, like, that's exhausting. Like, what I need for this show to be viable is, like, 100,000 listeners. Do you think I can get there one by one anytime soon? Of course not. There's no way I can do that. At the very least, I would need everybody within my listening audience to bring a new person to the box every week. And that's just not happening. I mean, like, yep. And the chat is great, and the supporters of this show great, and I've heard them be like, you should check out this show because it's this or it's that, or it's about local things we're talking about, it's about that, whatever. I've heard it for years, and I always appreciate it, and we do grab new listeners, and we do grab, people's interest from time to time, and people ebb and flow in and out of the chat and ebb and flow out of listenership, and that's fine. I got one of the greatest texts I think I could have gotten about this show because I guess it was last week's show, and I was playing Off the Turnpike, and I was saying, like, I hope there's a reunion, something, as long as Salchi's not in the band, because I don't need him to ruin the band again. And I get a text like 3 or 4 days later from Andy. He's like, yo, I finally heard that part about Salchi. And he's like, I couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, like, that's that's what I like to see. I like to see that. And that's fun, and it's great and stuff. But, like, in terms of making this, like, a viable thing that, we can make money and I can go out and sponsor stuff, like I'm going to probably start doing, like, on-show commercials just because there's products, actually, I want to tell you guys about. Like, and whether or not I make money on it, I have absolutely no idea. But I'm definitely interested in, like, telling you about some stuff that I've been using. I just haven't gotten around to writing down the script for commercials and stuff like that. Like, it's not going to be like, hey, man, NordVPN, not a sponsor. Like, probably not going to be that. But I don't know. My point is like, I don't know that I can do it for the rest of ever without some sort of viable move forward, because I don't know that it's completely worth it to do the entire world of the Hard Rock Lunchbox every week. If it's just not going to produce anything. Like, if it's just the same, 10 of us hanging out, like, I'll just keep doing the box and we'll have a good time and all that other stuff. But I probably won't continue to repost it all the time or do the top 20 all the time or all that other stuff. But I am, like I said, introducing something new today that I'm thinking I'm going to continue doing. If I get it to technically work, and I don't mean like technically, I mean like technically all the technical stuff. If I get all that working, and then I just have it set up, then this could be something we regularly do. And what I want to turn it into, like I said, the whole idea of the Talk 20, is I want to talk to people that kind of like we all know. I was thinking this morning, I want to do like a series of like 10 interviews with just local band members, just real quick, not bands, band members, and just be like, why do we continue to do this? And see if I can find my own answer. Maybe somebody's got an answer out there for me. But that's my next plan, and if all this works, it'll probably start as early as, I don't know, next week or the week after. And then, of course, we'll be sprinkling in bands and all that other stuff. But I feel like I've talked enough, and I said probably nothing, and that should be no surprise for any regular listener of the Hard Rock Lunchbox, so thank you for that. But we're going to get on some music. I did manage to download some weird classic music that might be appreciated by the box, might not be appreciated by the box. At this point, I don't know how much it actually matters. It's more about entertainment and what we do when we hang out every Thursday for a couple of hours. So I'm going to play some music. I'm going to set up my Zoom meeting, get that all set. That goes down around 1 o'clock, so about, 35 minutes from now, the whole show could end. I mean, we have really no idea. And we'll just kind of take it from there. Man, I'm already tired. I can't even imagine how I could, like, muster enough energy to say, smack my bitch up. Yeah, Segway sucked, but it's happening.